Hello and welcome to the special edition of the Coach Me Vancouver podcast. My name is Nadine Stille and I'm your host for today. I'm here with three of our featured coaches to talk about coaching that focuses on your overall well-being and wellness. Did you know that 3 out of the top 6 results Canadians experienced as a result of coaching relate to a well-being aspect? That's according to a PwC conducted survey on behalf of the ICF, that's the International Coaching Federation. So through coaching, coachees would experience things like increased self-confidence and self-esteem. They'd experience improved work-life balance and an increased well-being. So with that in mind, we'd love to shed a bit more light on well-being and wellness through coaching. And we have our 3 amazing coaches with us today, who I'd like to introduce you to. First off, we have Dana Smith. Dana is a life and success coach who helps people who are feeling lost in their identity and direction. She helps them to embody trust, clarify what they want, and create the next chapter of their lives. Her clients come to see themselves as whole, energized, and potent. Mina Phaisaltantiwongs is a personal and professional development coach whose passion is to help others grow in a way that is meaningful to them, and it is her mission to serve her clients so that they become a better version of themselves, a version that they want to be, so that they can live a life that they truly want to live. And last but not least, we have Hellen Young. Hellen is a life coach with a special focus on financial wellness. She believes when life works, everything works. Hellen is not a traditional financial planner who analyzes the wellness of the market and gives you recommendations what funds or stocks to buy and sell. Instead, she helps you analyze you. She listens to you deeply, values your long-term sustainability over short-term band-aid solutions, and brings you closer to your financial and life fulfillment. And with that in mind, let's get the conversation started, everyone. First question I have for you is, what actually is wellness coaching, specifically to your area of expertise? Who wants to start?
I can start.
Great.
Well, for me, I'm a true believer of our lives and finance are deeply interconnected, because behind every dollar sign, there are dreams waiting to be expressed, values are, waiting to be honored, and a life to be fulfilled. It is really important to understand, what or to define, like, what does a wellness mean to you? And then unpack, once you know what that is, then you can start the how-to strategy.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I'm just really inspired by what you're saying, Hellen. It's surprising how often I work with my coaches in regards to their relationship to money, abundance, wealth, however they want to call it. It's pretty much comes up in every coaching relationship that I have. And we absolutely consider it a portion of a person's well-being. So I'm really, really glad that you're holding that lens for us.
Thanks.
It's fantastic.
So for me, wellness coaching is about using the thought-provoking coaching techniques to help people move towards their wellness and well-being. And as Hellen, you mentioned, wellness is something that is so specific and personal to each person. But with that in mind, wellness is much more than just health. Wellness includes being happy, healthy. It's about feeling fulfilled, and it's about feeling purposeful. So it's more than just surviving. It's about thriving. And I think for lots of people out there, people have a tendency to love to learn and grow. And that's why I feel that personal and professional development is a huge key aspect of people's well-being and their movement towards wellness. Because when you don't learn and when you don't grow and you're not improving yourself, you start to feel stuck and unfulfilled and unhappy. And that's why I think personal and professional development is so key for wellness.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing, everyone. What are the one or two most common topics that people come to you with for wellness coaching? Is there something that kind of you all see as a common ground, or, who wants to take this on? Dana?
Yeah, sure. I'll pipe in. I think the commonality in my client base has a lot to do with clarity. Almost everybody shows up wanting some clarity in many different aspects of their lives. So I think that's a main topic in my population.
Yeah, definitely agree with you, Dana. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I would say the most common things that people come to coaching for is clarity and direction, either in life or in their career. Either they feel like they're at a place in their career they don't know what to do next, or they feel like they're a little lost, or in their life. So it really it really works on both for everything, really.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mina. And that then refers back to their kind of mental wellness, right?
Right.
If you're feeling stuck and you're looking for that direction, mm-hmm. it has an impact on your your wellness and how you feel, not just mentally, but it can, that could be, I guess, like stressors involved with that too, right, that have an impact on your
mm-hmm.
on
your body. And I do
want
to add, if I can, that while people do come to coaching for clarity and to find direction either in their career or in their personal life, mm-hmm. I think what keeps people, what makes people stay on with coaching is the wonderful support that they discover from coaching that is unbiased, it's thought-provoking, it's non-judgmental. And, I find that I have clients who come to me for certain issues or problems, but that once they realize that coaching can help them achieve wellness in so many different areas of their life, and it provides them this incredible safe place for them to explore and discover, that's what makes them want to continue on and stay on with coaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a very holistic approach to helping someone thrive, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mina, you nailed it. And then Nadine, when you mentioned about the feeling, I was going to say one of the common topics that my client bring to me is about confidence. They want to feel more confident in creating relationship with themselves, with others, and as well with finance. It's like having a friend, and it's interesting. Like, how would you treat your friend? Would you ignore your friend? Would you say bad things behind your friend? Like, would you not looking at your budget for like a whole year? Like, are you a good friend? Yeah. So it's really kind of to gain again that clarity and know how do you use your feeling to gauge your confidence in creating the meaningful relationship you want to build, either inward as well as outward.
Sorry, Helen, I wanted to clarify with you. Yeah. Are you proposing the idea that you treat your budget and your finances like a friend?
Yeah.
Is that wow, that's really an interesting idea. I hadn't considered things that way. So I'm learning things from you even as we record.
Awesome. Yeah, you already have a friend.
Yeah. There's this saying around self-compassion. It's like talk to yourself as if you were talking to a friend. And it goes with a lot of different ways. So that's an interesting angle to take there too, right? With something that you might not actually have maybe that good a relationship with. What would you do to make that relationship better?
Totally. Definitely going to take that lens and apply that to my finances and budget.
You go, girl.
That's fantastic.
So one of the things that we've discussed on the run-up to this special podcast is work-life balance, right? The term work-life balance. And we decided that we wanted to ask to get some input from Coach Me followers on social media and people that we talk with. So we've had we had two different campaigns running on social media. One was an area where we had a poll. So we asked people on Facebook and Twitter specifically to vote. Do you think true work-life balance can be achieved? So on Facebook, nearly like 90% of people say that yes, it's possible to achieve true work-life balance. On Twitter, it was 60% for yes to versus 40% no. And we had a few interesting comments around that too. Some of them I want to read out in a moment to see, what our followers talked about. But I want to hear your personal insights first. A clear yes to work-life balance can be achieved. What are your immediate thoughts about that?
I'd love to start on this if you guys don't mind. I think that's fascinating. And I'm really happy to hear that a lot of people think that it can be achieved. That's wonderful. Personally, I actually don't like the idea of work-life balance, just because when I think of balance, I'm thinking like those scales and, in order to achieve balance, your work and personal life have to be 50-50. And I personally don't. Personally, I prefer the term work-life harmony. I think that your work and professional life directly influences your personal life, and then your personal life also affects your professional life. So I think they actually work together, and they're really just a part of this bigger thing called life. I don't think there should be any separation. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal thought.
I'm totally with you on, I was going to propose a similar approach as well. So, I don't like to think of it as a teeter-totter. That's, when you're perfectly straddled between, one end or the other, you've achieved it and you're there. I don't think it's like that. I think it's more of a relationship that we hold with the components of our lives. At certain points in our lives, we have more capacity to do certain things. And if it feels good and we feel energized, then we're in balance. It's about how it feels while we're doing it. I know personally, I've had times in my life where I've worked a lot more, but I found it energizing and it filled me up and it wasn't draining. And I think the key is to check in with yourself to make sure that you're not getting depleted by what it is you're doing. And if you are, that's when you start to check in and say, okay, well, this isn't working for me right now in this way. I wonder which dials I can twist to create more, I don't know if the words of balance is right. I think we're all kind of pushing against it. But harmony, I like that one, Mina.
I really do agree with you, Dana, though, that it's not just something that you achieve a balance and it just stays static. It's a constant work in progress, and life is dynamic. It's changing. There will be times in which you maybe work more or spend more time on your personal endeavors. I think it's always a constant motion and fine tweaking and adjusting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love all your girls' comment. And then when Dana mentioned about, when you feel good, then you're in balance. And for me, I love food. So I would say when it tastes good, then you're in balance. In a metaphor, it's like when you're cooking, it's really like what's important to you in that moment and what you really crave for or longing for. If you're craving for something sweet, right, then you probably put more sugar or
bring on the cake.
Yeah, exactly. Then you dive into the cake. And in times that you want to say crave for Thai food, you want to just add a little bit of spice and different kind of ingredients, then that's where you're going to focus more on the cooking. So it really depends on what ingredients or what kind of a dish you want to cook today. And that's where you're going to focus. So you have a focused a shopping list.
It's a fantastic metaphor to work with. I love it.
Hellen is killing it with the metaphors today. But totally, I agree with you. Like in life, like different moments, you're craving different things, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's more recreation, more social, more meeting people, or sometimes it's, I really need to be productive and get things done. So I love that metaphor. And I think after this, I'll be asking myself, what am I craving in my life right now?
Yeah. What I like about the food metaphor too is that it speaks to nourishment as well as taste. Yes. And food can be so many things to us, but I think those are the two main ones, like what tastes good and what feels good, like what's nourishing. So I think we need to strike harmony between taste and nourishment, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Loving the conversation around that. And to be honest, like a lot of the comments that were that we received on social media more or less went along the lines of what we just discussed here too. There's a yes with a but, right? There's always a condition around it. Right. And there's some interesting aspects. Right. So we had a poll running on Facebook and Twitter. The question was, do you think true work-life balance can be achieved? The results were a bit surprising for us. There were clear yeses to yes, it can be achieved. The Twitter poll came back with 60% yes. Facebook, it was in the 90s, so it's a very clear vote there. And I'd love to read out a few of the comments that were left by some of our followers on social media. So on Facebook, we had Martin V, who said, I voted yes for people who like what they do, but not pursuing it as an entrepreneur. Kathy W. on Facebook said, I think it depends on your work environment and how you cultivate it. Ariana F on Facebook said, I think it depends on how you define balance. I think it's definitely possible to have the two integrated in a way that feels balanced, but only if we're talking about an equal balance. I don't think it is really possible. Lena K on Facebook said, I'd love to hear from some parents with 2 kids and both business owners how a work-life balance can be achieved. Maybe I'm missing something. Tarek A on LinkedIn said, yes, it can be achieved, provided employers understand the importance of not sending emails and text messages past a certain hour. Shweta R on LinkedIn mentioned, I think it should be called professional personal life balance, since work is a big and meaningful a part of life. But no, overall, given how most people relate to balance, it seems like most people are trying to attain a perfect, seamless flow where your personal and professional life coexists without any tension. I think it's a flawed way to look at life. While we're at it, I'm just going to read out 2 more comments on from Instagram. Miss Kara said, no, I don't think it's possible. Work-life flow is more realistic. So people come up with all different ways of calling it. We should have a roundup of what people call it in a moment. Yeah. So sometimes you need to put 80% into your work, leaving 20% for life. Other times you can give 75% to life as work has calmed down or the project is completed, etc. So a balance is not possible. A flow definitely is. And DI Coaching on Instagram said, absolutely yes. I think it's important to recognize balanced does not mean equal. It's an interesting way. And know for your own life what it is. What does it feel like being balanced, right? So again, it comes loads of different aspects. Some of you touched on that already.
Well, I just have to say, I love all the engagement from different Coach Me Vancouver audiences. That's fantastic. I love to hear that. And I also think that we've got some pretty clever and bright audience members. Yes. I think they're onto something.
Yeah. So we've had work-life flow. What else did we have? Harmony.
I like harmony. But flow is fantastic as well. I'll be thinking about that more. And
fluid. It's fluid, right? It's it's interchangeable. So
and we don't try to obtain it as a certain way of being. Flow is a verb, which really appeals to me as well. Yeah. It's not a static state.
It's not a destination. It's like a movement.
What I noticed too, with kind of some threads, what people were saying there is that in certain circumstances, it feels like life is being done to them, and that they're not in a place of power with it. Like in the example of, 2 self-employed parents who have 2 kids, where there's all these outside influences, and then a couple other ones as well, where it's like, oh yeah, if you're an entrepreneur and you have that control, maybe it is possible. And I'm just thinking back to some clients that I've worked with who have struggled with this, not feeling like they're showing up in all the components of their life in the best way or the way that they would prefer. And we worked a lot on cultivating the relationships to the parts of and I know we keep saying relationship, but it is a choice. And we can cultivate relationships with ourselves, with the portions of our lives as well. And when we do that, then it becomes a curated experience, and not just like, oh, the world's happening to me and there's nothing I can do. Better take cover.
I totally agree with you, Dana.
Nice.
If I can jump in, that's a sentiment that I also share is a lot of clients, when I start working with them, they sort of have this mentality that's they're a victim of circumstance. They're just going about their life. Things are happening and they can't do anything about it. But once we start to work together, and they realize that, first of all, they become more aware of what's going on and that they have the power to make these intentional choices. That's when they start to feel more purposeful. They feel more fulfilled. They're making intentional choices and creating the life that they want. Then they start to feel more fulfilled and purposeful. And that's when you get more towards, that wellness that we're talking about and thriving as opposed to just surviving.
Yeah, and the word empowerment comes to mind with the words you used just now as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of confidence and self-esteem that comes through, right? Because hardly ever do you as a coach say, hey, this is what you need to do, right? Everyone has those solutions already in them, and you ask them the questions to kind of realize what their solutions are that suit them best to move forward towards their life of well-being and wellness, right? So that in itself is very empowering and helps them with their self-confidence and self-esteem moving forward. So
you know what came to mind too is assertion and boundaries come up a lot as well when we're cultivating that space of empowerment, because people have to start to stand up for themselves in their life and in their roles. And I've had some really great conversations about asserting themselves and saying, you know what, this is what I need right now, and I really need your support to help me get there. And that is really surprisingly hard for people, but so foundational when trying to make changes to live a more wholesome or well existence.
It's like saying yes to yourself more, right? Instead of saying yes to everyone else. It's like you need to look inside yourself first.
And boy, does it ever feel risky to say no sometimes. It feels so risky.
Yeah, especially if other people are expecting that.
Yeah.
And then to suddenly turn that around. But yeah, Hellen, you were...
Oh, I was just going to say, yes, like when you talk about the choices, I kept thinking about, our lives is kind of like a book. We are the author of the book. And there's no right or wrong. Say sometimes we write our chapters and sometimes we may let or invite people to write our chapters as well. So it's about when to take that control or when to purposefully or intentionally give that control or empowerment. Say, hey, come write some, lines in my chapter. Like this one is free flow. And then you go from there.
Oh, killing it again with the metaphors. Amazing.
Can I have that book from my library at home, please? Great. Well, we're actually already moving into the last part of the questions that I had. One was, what are common things that stop people from achieving wellness? So one of them would definitely be, from what I gathered right now, is saying yes too often to something that maybe is not in alignment with your goals, right? Is there something else that you see very often that...
And just before getting to that place is people not realizing that they're saying yes to other people's stories. And that's a big one, is making that differentiation. It's like, wait a minute, who chose to do this?
On that line, I think that's exactly what stops people from... One of the things that stops people from achieving wellness, first of all, is they don't know. They don't know that they are accepting another person's definition of wellness, and they don't know what their own definition of wellness is and what contributes to their own wellness. So that's what coaching can do, is to help you identify very personally, what does it mean to be well for you? What components of that? What are the components of that? Excuse me. And other things that I see that stop people from achieving wellness are fear, being afraid to pursue things, and being very risk adverse. Also limiting beliefs, like I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, like all those beliefs that we have that stop us. And then negative self-talk is a really strong one. Like, yeah, exactly. So I think, the way that coaching can help with that is first identifying that, identifying those things, and then coming up with how do you want to deal with these things when they come up? The negative self-talk, the limiting beliefs, the fears, and then going into designing, exercises or things that you want to try to improve your life. So it's not just about chatting about it, but it's actually going out there and doing it, giving things a try, and then the coach can hold accountability for that person, and then afterwards see what worked, what didn't work, why didn't it work, how are we going to move forward with this. So the client has a teammate that's really there on their side, trying to help them become more well and more aligned with who they are.
Mm-hmm. I'll just pipe in there. You inspired me again, Mina. And it's around letting people down. I think that's another block for people, that they get really wrapped up in what they do and how that affects the people around them or the world. And that leads to more negative self-talk. You can't do that. This and that will happen. Doomsday. Blah.
Mm-hmm. So and there's a lot of stress kind of associated with that too, right? Mm-hmm. If you were always the one that everyone else is leaning on, or you're holding it together, or and I think particularly women seem to be in the role of the nurturer role, and
I'll challenge you on that. I don't like gendering because I don't see how that helps. But people who tend to be more nurturing, I think would be a more inclusive way of saying that, because I certainly know some men who are bent over backwards to make sure other people are taken care of. So I just want to represent them as well.
On that line, I just recently experienced, just a couple days ago, that this comes to mind, is someone who's fantastic and so brilliant, but they're actually shrinking themselves because they're worried about how this might make other people feel insecure and might make them feel uncomfortable. But that's really unfortunate. They can't celebrate themselves, and then by shrinking themselves, they make other people want to shrink themselves as well.
And then conversely, the other flip is, if you become more empowered and more alive and more vital, it gives other people permission to do the same, and it brightens the whole world.
Exactly. So once someone starts pursuing their well-being and becoming more of themselves and being more fulfilled and happy and purposeful, that just lifts the people around them.
Setting a positive example, being the role model around that.
And then it's like, hey, I just noticed what you started to take on. Oh, you cut out sugar from your diet, or I've noticed that whatever the example is, it gives other people permission to do the same, or even bigger, brighter things.
Yeah,
absolutely. Your outer experience is definitely a way how you show up internally, and it's important to take care of yourself from within, and then it will show up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So last question, is there any more ways that you can help your clients achieve wellness, or is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
For me, I would say it's really wellness coaching is really to help you understand or learn more about yourself, who you are, what motivates you, what charges you, what lifts you up, what upsets you, what frustrates you, what are your core values. So the more you understand how you work, then it's so much easier to make a decision based on the combination of your intelligence, emotional intelligence, and everything to move forward with a decision making on when and where and how much you're gonna say yes and no to life and finance, for example.
I totally agree with you, Helen. I think when your client comes to you, or when my clients come to me initially, they're faced with these big problems, these hard decisions that they need to make. But through the coaching process, I always find every time my clients say, oh, I learned something about myself. I had no idea that this was a big thing for me. And once they start to know themselves more, those big decisions become really easy because they know exactly who they are. They know exactly what they will stand for, what they won't, and what's important to them, what's not important to them. So it becomes easier the more you know yourself, and you can become really, it improves your well-being when you know yourself more.
Yeah, and inevitably, once you know more about yourself, you actually become more conscious about people around you, and get curious on, what actually upset this person? What is the trigger, right? And it works for personal and also corporate, team environment. What actually will shut this person down, and what will motivate the person to engage a bit more, and that's really behind a deeper learning and understanding of yourself and others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ripples of wellness coaching, if that's our focus today, it's infinite. You know, it's going to affect all portions of your life. So really, you can't lose. You can't lose. You're going to win.
And on that note, you can only win. That's it from us for now. If you'd like to start working on your work-life flow, financial wellness, and more fulfilled life, overcoming your obstacles, then please book a free initial coaching session with Mina, Hellen, or Dana. Go to coachmevancouver.com/book. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Stay curious. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye.